Hey everyone, I'm back. This is video number 2. I'm Jordan and I'm here to show you today how to build another AI chatbot, but this time it's going to be headless. Let's get started. We have demo 7. What do we want to do? We want to install Drupal. That's going to be our backend. So we're going to name it the directory backend, and now Composer is going to grab all the packages, stick them in that subdirectory. If you're familiar with Drupal, you know that Drupal has its own structure where the web root is different from the doc root, but now we also have a project root, right? So there's 3 layers. That's fine. What else do we need to do? We need to install React, the front end. We'll come back to Drupal. Obviously, we're not done installing Drupal. There's the database and the config and all those things. We'll get to it. But before we do that, let's install the front end. There's a lot of choices out there. I chose to use Create React App. You're going to notice here, if you visit this project yourself, it is deprecated. This project was released by Facebook several years ago, and I still like it even if it is deprecated because it's a really shallow front end. It doesn't make any opinions about what the back end should be because we've chosen our own back end. It's Drupal. It's already in there. And this front end works well with that. So deprecated just means no more updates, but it's still a great platform for this demonstration at least. So let's run npx now, and we're going to put this in a folder called front end. So far we have back end, now we have front end. And npx is the execution utility for the Node package manager. So for the backend we use Composer, for the front end we use Node. Different package managers, same general idea. I might cut this out. And we're done. Beautiful. Okay. Next, we need to install DDEV. DDEV is a tool for our local environment. The idea here is we don't need to upload this to a server before we can test it. We can test it immediately on our own computer and just get a much faster feedback loop. So let's do that now. DDEV is already installed on my computer. So what I need to do is DDEV config, and this is going to set DDEV up for this project. DDEV is not the only choice. There are others like Lando, Doxel. I personally like DDEV because it's a little more flexible for a headless type environment like we're setting up. So that's my recommendation for this project. Also, it's good at guessing when you set it up. So what's the project name? Demo 7. Sure, that works. Project location, this we need to change. Like I said before, we have Drupal stores its web root in web. And so that is going to be our doc root location. All right. Now that we've specified that, DDEV has guessed that we're running Drupal 11. That's correct. So all we need to do is hit enter. Great. Now we can run DDEV start. Before we do that, actually, we're going to do a little more setup here. Now we have a DDEV folder, and we're going to open that up, and we're going to modify config.yaml. There's a couple things we need to do here. We need to add a Composer root. So you see there's the Composer version, it's version 2, that's great. Right under that, we're going to add Composer root is backend. So that means when we execute a Composer command, where should it execute? And the answer is in the Drupal directory, because that's where Composer runs. Okay, that's all we need to do there. But then the other thing is I have a bit of code, and I'm going to grab it really quickly for you. Here it is. I'm just going to paste this in. but I'll explain what we're doing. Web extra exposed ports. Okay, so this is headless. That means there's one server here. Right now it's my laptop, but in fact it's virtualized because it's in DDEV. But the point is we actually need to run more than one server software on the same server. That's how headless works. You have your front end, you have your back end. You don't have to have them on the same server. I'm just doing that for convenience, for local development. In reality, they're probably in production, they're probably on separate servers. But for DDEV, we need to let DDEV know there's a second server going on here. What's the name of the server? We're going to name it Node.js. The container port is port 30. That's the port that we're allowing to be exposed from the inside of our container, our virtual DDEV container. And on the outside, we're just going to expose it also as port 3000. Sorry, not 30, 3000. What that gives us is it just allows, once the Node.js daemon is running, it allows us to visit it through the firewall on DDEV. Okay, good enough. Web extra daemons. This is, what's a daemon? A daemon is a computer program that just runs on its own on a server. It doesn't need, you can start it up, but it doesn't need commands. It just does its own thing. What's this daemon going to do? We're going to call it the front end daemon, and it's going to do two things. It's going to do an npm install, so it's going to install the packages for our front end, and then it's going to do an npm start. And it's going to do that in our front end directory. I need to correct this to front end. That's it. This is the directory inside of DDEV. It's not my host computer directory. If I were to do a pwd on my host machine, you'll see there's my path. I don't mind sharing that. But the point is, this is inside of DDEV, the path inside of DDEV, so you need to know what that is. But I'm just telling you, so that's easy. What's next? Let's start DDEV. I think we're ready. That's another easy command, DDEV start. While we're waiting for that to start up, if you're curious about the autocomplete that I have on my command line, that is called Amazon Q, and it's a really cool little utility. This is basically all it does. I mean, they have their whole AI platform that they want to share, but this is all I use it for, and it's really cool for that purpose. After the mutagen sync, we're waiting for the containers to become ready, and in a minute, you're going to see the web extra daemon job spin up. Starting web extra daemons. So it doesn't give you the feedback from the command line that it ran here. This is the command, but that's running now. So we can do two things. We can visit our Drupal site. Here it is. Okay, we're going to set that up in a minute. The other thing we can do is we can visit our back end. And our back end is the same as our front end, but it's at port 3000 because we exposed port 3000. And here we have our React app. So we have a Drupal site running, we have a React site running. We're 2/3 of the way there. The last piece is the chatbot, but we'll get there. So what do we need? We need to run some DDEV composer commands. We need two things. We need drush, just because every Drupal command should have drush, and we're going to need it for enabling things. Pardon me. But the other thing we're going to need is the CSV serialization module. There you go. We've installed drush. We've installed CSV serialization. Now, what do we have? We've installed the composer dependencies. Before we enable them, we need to actually have a working Drupal site. I'm going to pause here because this is something important that I'm doing. we're using the demo Umami Food Magazine set of demo content that comes packaged with Drupal. Why? Because we need the content. What do we need the content for? To train our chatbot. If we don't train our chatbot on content, it's just a generic everyday chatbot. Everybody has one of those. That's not special. What's special is a chatbot trained on your content. So I am using the Umami Food Magazine just for demonstration purposes. I mean, it's either that or my personal blog, and I didn't want to put that on YouTube, so here we go. It's installing some translations, that's fine. Our chatbot could be multilingual. It doesn't really matter. I need to fill out the basic Drupal requirements. I'm going to use Google Chrome to help store my password. One last thing worth noting, I'm turning off receive email notifications because this is just a demo site and I don't want it emailing me every time there's an update. This is just going to take a minute to install and configure, and in a second our site's going to pop up. And here it is. There's some warnings at the top. We're just going to ignore those for now. We have a lovely food magazine with content. Great. Now we can run the command to enable the CSV serialization module. There's another module we need as well. It's the REST module. And I'm going to point out this command here, ddev drush. We're running drush inside of ddev. This is important because this is our environment. All right, it's going to install 3 modules. Do you want to continue? Yes, I do. It's installing the translations as well. That's great. All right, now we can go into our site. We're already logged in, and we're going to modify a view. And in particular, we're going to modify the front page view. It comes built in with Drupal, which is great. What is the front page view? This is a feed that's displayed on the front page. But what we want is we want it in a format that an AI bot can consume. What's that? That's going to be the REST export. So we're going to add a new display. This is the REST export display. Doesn't matter what the title is. Under serializer, we need to tell it that we're going to accept CSV requests. So if I send a request to the server saying, please give me a CSV file, it'll say, sure, here you go. What else are we displaying? We're going to show the entity. This is a choice. We could also select individual fields, but what's nice about showing the whole entity is that it just exposes all the fields, which I'll show you in a minute. It's not rendering yet because we haven't set a path. Any path will do. I think export is a nice choice. What else do we need? Specify a specific number of items. No, for our purposes, we're going to just display all items. If you have a data set that's very large that you're trying to train your bot on, you might need a more sophisticated approach. But for us, we're just going to expose everything. There's about 20 recipes that we have in our collection. Everything else is fine. I'm going to click the save button, and now what happens when I scroll down is this is a CSV. This is comma separated values. It starts with a header row, and then it gets into actual data, and these are recipes. This is perfect. This is exactly what I want. What else do we want to change? Nothing. I love it. If I click this view REST export button, I should get a download. There it goes, export.csv. Let's open that up and see what happens. And it's a spreadsheet. This is exactly what I was looking for. Perfect. Okay, we don't need that. We'll close it. Well, we do need it eventually, but we'll get there. What are we missing? We're missing our bot. Let's get to it. Let's add a bot. I'm going to add a bot that I made, and I've released it as open source. It's called the copy bot. So I'm just going to come in here on GitHub. So, all right, for our backend, we use Composer. For our front end, we use Node Package Manager. For the bot, we're simply using GitHub because that's where it's hosted. And it's not in Node and it's not in PHP. So you'll see in a minute what it is in. If you're reading the screen, you can already see it says Python. But the point is, those other package managers don't work for this. I haven't added this to pip yet. Maybe I should. Let me know in the comments if you think that's a good idea. But for now, it's a git clone. So, git clone, we paste in the URL, cloning into Copybot, and there we go. And now you can see in my IDE, now we have technically a fourth directory. We have backend, frontend, Copybot, and then our ddev config. Now remember, ddev config is only going to apply in our local environment. When we actually upload to a server, that server is going to need its own config, but we're not going to talk about that in this talk. Let me know if that's something you're curious about, and I can make another talk. What do we need in Copybot? Well, let's take a look at what's here. There are a few Python scripts. There's requirements. We'll get to that in a minute, but first, let's add some environment variables. The way to do that in a local environment is to just create an env file. What do we need in here? We're going to need an OpenAI key. So, this is something where, unfortunately, you can't just copy what I give you. We're going to need to create your own key, but I'll show you how. I'm using OpenAPI. This project has been designed to work with OpenAPI. You're certainly welcome to adapt it to use Claude or Gemini or whatever else you want. You can see I've done this a few times already. It's easy. Create secret key. This one is demo 7. Now, as soon as I press this button, it's going to actually show the key on the screen. So I'm going to blur that out. No peeking. Now I can click done. Now I can paste that over here. Again, no peeking. What else do I need to add? Let's go back to the README in GitHub. I need a cert file path. We don't actually have a certificate yet. We'll add one in a minute. We need a key file path. That's also for the certificate. And lastly, allow origins. The AI is already trying to autocomplete that for me. Localhost is wrong. I'm going to show you in a minute what the correct value is. But the point is we have an env file and we need to define these values. All right. Let's get the SSL key now. To get the SSL key, we need to run a command. There's a few different ways of doing it. It depends if you're working on a live server or on your local environment. Since we're in local, we're going to copy this command from the README. And in it goes. There are a few questions to answer. Where am I? I'm in the United States. Your mileage may vary. It doesn't really matter, but it's a good idea. It's a good idea to put in honest values. Because this is my local environment, I'm going to fudge this section a little bit. All right. Now we have, you'll notice in a sec this will update. Whoops, I put them in the wrong directory. Here we go. We have our cert.pem and our key.pem. Those need to go in the Copybot directory. So we're just going to move them there. Those don't need to be opened. Thank you, IDE. All right, so now we have our location. And that's it. All right, we still have to do this allow origins. but we don't know what the origin is yet. So before we get there, let's install the requirements. It's in the README, but basically it's pip install -r requirements.txt. And I'm still in the wrong directory. All right, now I'm in the right directory. Pip install. It says they're all already installed. Now here's a note. This part I'm actually doing on my host machine, not inside DDEV. And the reason for that is because it was enough work just to tell DDEV to support both PHP and Node, and the idea of also telling it to support Python just seems like another project. So Python already exists on a Mac. It's already installed. All I needed to do was run pip install on my Mac, and now I have all these libraries installed, and the scripts will run. We're just running a virtualized server anyways, so it doesn't matter if it runs natively or inside the virtual machine. That's my technical explanation. If you want to see a fancier version of DDEV that supports Python as well, let me know in the comments. Anyways, now that we've installed everything, we need to run the embed function. This is how this is how this script works. First, the embed function needs to grab that CSV file that we generated. It needs to process it and then store it as a vector database, because that is the format that AIs can read. What's a vector database? I'm not going to go into it in this talk. I went into it in my other talk. I encourage you to go back and check that out if you're interested. But the point is, it needs a feed. What's the feed? Feed is this right here. We're going to just copy this link address. We're going to paste this in. URL equals that. We're going to add a primary field is going to be field recipe instructions. How do I know? Let's take a look. This is our header and our header row. And what's notable in here is there's no body field. Usually in Drupal there's a body field for a node for content, but there isn't in this case. What do we have? Well, field recipe instruction is probably a good one. If you're trying to understand a recipe and you're trying to share it with others, sharing the instructions is a good way to do that. So we're going to use that field, primary equals field recipe instructions, and then we're going to add the unsafe flag. Why? Just so we don't have to worry about SSL issues. This Drupal site in DDEV does have SSL, but it's a self-signed certificate, which is not as safe, and the fetch script complains about it. So if you add unsafe, then it just ignores that step. I don't recommend doing that in production, but for demo purposes, it's fine. Okay, let's run the script. What happens? It is visiting our demo site. It's loading the CSV. It's chunking it. It's embedding it. It's doing all the things, and it completed in 7.5 seconds, less than. Now, if we look inside Copybot, there's an embeddings.csv right here. We don't need to open it. The point is, that's our vector database. Okay, cool. What's the next step? What we need in our allow origins is this, because that is our Drupal site. What's the next step? Well, we have a chatbot, but we can't use it yet because we can't access it. How are we going to access it? We're going to access it through the front end. All right, let's open up the front end and see what's in here. There's the public directory, there's the source directory. Source is where we actually store our code. This is a great structure. There's CSS in here, there's logos, there's all sorts of good stuff. There's even automated testing. We're not going to worry about any of that right now. What we care about is this code, bit of code right here. first thing we're going to do is delete it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add in our chatbot. So if I save, that should hot reload. Text should disappear. Great. All that's left is the image. Okay, what do we need to add? We need to, well, first of all, this isn't going to work. I can't add anything while this is running. So let's open up a new tab in our IDE. All right, one point I want to make. When we're modifying the allow origins for the copybot, the origin that we want to allow is from the front end, because it's the front end that's going to be accessing copybot. Okay, what do we need to do? We need to install the front end. There's a package already. It's open source. So let's get into the front end here. And now that we're in the right directory, that's the package, copy Esquire / chatbot. It's an open source package on NPM, just takes a few seconds to install. Added 81 packages, thank you very much. Once that's installed, we can go into our app.js. Make sure we're still in the right project, demo 7, yes we are. Okay, we're going to take a bunch of this code in the middle here, and we're just going to delete it for now. As soon as I hit save, you'll see the code disappears. That's great. I don't need the warning. What I do want is to import, not React, but the chatbot from the copy Esquire package. Great. Why is it giving me a warning? Unused import. Okay, that's great. Yeah, it's the, oh no, that's too much. The IDE is getting a little carried away. What are we going to add? We're going to add a chatbot. What do we need? There's two arguments that it will take, greeting or API URL. What we want is API URL. What is the API URL? We're going to come back to that in a minute. But what we are going to do is we're going to close that out and hit save. Oh, it requires an API URL. Okay, fine. Let's dig that up right now. The API URL is what's running, what the chatbot is running on. So in our case, it's 0.0.0.0:8000. In your case, you're probably going to have a real server running somewhere. Okay, as soon as I plug in the URL, it gives me a default greeting about my own blog. That's not really the greeting we want in this case. We can customize it. Let's just say hello. Okay, great. And now it says hello. Maybe some about recipes. All right, let's try that. Interested in recipes? Yes. Okay. Okay. This isn't working. Why isn't this working? It's a browser issue. The reason it's a browser issue is because the front end is React and it runs in the browser. And so if the browser can't access a site, then no matter how you configure it, the browser still can't access the site, and neither can our front end. So there's a shortcut for us since we're working locally. We can just click on the link to the server and it pulls up this warning. Your connection is not private. Okay, fine. Yes, we're going to continue. This opens up a little error. That's fine. We don't actually care. We can close that. But the point is, now when I ask it about borscht, it's going to give me a real answer. I can tell it's going to give me a real answer because it's thinking about it. Here we go. The recipe provided in the context outlines a method for making borscht that includes pork ribs. Okay, yeah, great. What's left? Well, it works. All right, let's see if we can actually give me a detailed recipe for borscht. Let's see if we can get the one that we actually wanted. Oh, here we go. It mentions it. it's making me wait. It's adding suspense. Here we go. Step-by-step process. Oh, smoked pears? Oh, I like this recipe. I'm going to have to go try it. All right. Before we do that, what else is available? It's worth noting that I used some old-fashioned technology and techniques such as Create React App, which is deprecated. What's new? Well, this is new. Next to Drupal. It's from chapter 3, and it does all the same things. It'll spin up Drupal, it'll spin up a headless site, it'll create connections between those two things, it adds some API goodies. It's a little more powerful. If I were to rebuild the project from scratch today, this is probably how I would do it. But if you want to know how I built my own headless blog with Chatbot, this is it. That's my talk. I'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. Let me know what you want to see next.